Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The 40-year-old Albanian Nelson Hyson has called out the rising prospect Moses Itauma following his victory over Patrick Korte on the Fabio Wardley Justice Hooney undercard. This was pretty much at the start of the main card. Hysa, 40 years old, taking on Patrick Korte, and dispatched him pretty easily. Korte, stiff, just not very good, and anyone decent is going to stop him. And Nelson Hyson did get the job done. I mean, the way that some of the commentators were carrying on, and also, I mean, after the fight, you had DAZN saying this lad is dangerous. You had Queensbury saying an absolute monster. You'd think Hysa had been dispatching guys left, right, and centre, and guys of note. Patrick Korte is absolute dross. You know, he's not even a husk of a husk. He was never a husk to begin with. So I was just like, well, what's going on here? Because immediately after the fight, I was just like, why is this 40-year-old guy on the card anyway? And actually, someone in a tweet sort of said, partly it be because he's a ticket seller, but also there probably is a potential tie-in with Moses Itauma. And then what happened? You had Nelson Hyson in the interview after the fight calling out Moses Itauma, who was ringside. So, you know, he does want that fight with Itauma. It's not the first time that Hysa has actually been on a Frank Warren card. There's been talk that this fight was going to happen previously, but it didn't. And it makes sense that Warren would have him on this card. One, I guess, for some tickets, but two, also, if he is going to make some, you know, fights that are going to have some meaning for Itauma, something he can get out of them, Hysa kind of looks like he might fit the bill. Some of the opponents that Itauma's fought recently, just not good enough. Even though 40 years old, he can probably, you know, with his decent size, moves well, you know, a little bit of pop, some skills. But for a guy in Itauma, who we've already seen flashes of what he can do, Nelson Hysa is food. So despite some of the hype from the commentators, the broadcaster, and including the promoter saying he's an absolute monster, I think for Moses Itauma, he'd be absolute food. But it was really interesting because this potential call out and this sort of fight looked like it was, you know, could be something that would make sense, but it's also against the backdrop of an announcement from, or should I say, a tweet from Mike Coppinger from The Ring, who'd said that Moses Itauma could be fighting Dillian Whyte in August. That is a fight that is potentially going to get made. So I guess it's good to be Moses Itauma and getting some options, and I'll cover that in another fight because I've got some thoughts. But Nelson Hysa, for me, you know, yeah, good for him. 23-0. You know, 40 years old. He's made a run in recent years, you know, coming from obscurity. Now he's on some of these UK shows. He's been fed an absolute, you know, doddle of an opponent in Patrick Korte, you know, who stiff, just not very good. But at the end of the day, I mean, I don't think Hysa's got anything for Moses Itauma. And, you know, in the post-fight interview, he was sort of saying, look, I'm unbeaten too. I've got something to prove, and I can do something against Itauma. I just don't think he can. And I think some of the, what I would call manufactured hype about Hysa is not deserved because he's got absolutely next to nothing on his resume. It's just not a lot there. And for a guy at 40 who's got over 20 fights there, he really hasn't fought anyone of any real consequence. I mean, you've got Ariel Esteban Bracamonte, but his best days were 5 or 6 years ago when him and Dave Allen were taking lumps out of each other. He's been through the mill and through the ringer many times since then, and is not what he used to be. So I kind of think that this is, you know, on a platter almost for Moses Itauma. And, you know, does this look like he's trying to sort of suppress some sort of laugh or a smile? I don't know. But Nelson Hysa versus Moses Itauma, in terms of the development of Itauma, he might get something from it, a different look, different style. And it is one of these things, he needs some rounds. So if Hysa can be tricky, maybe test him a little bit, land a few shots and see what their chin's made of, well, that would actually be very practical and a good fight to make. I don't think in a million years he wins that fight, and I don't think any of the so-called, you know, monster tags and other bits and pieces is deserved at all. Moses Itauma would, I think, go through him in under 6 rounds. But, if he could take him the distance or, take him deep into an 8, 10 round, 12, whatever, that would be fantastic for Itauma, because I think he needs to have a little bit of stiffness, someone with a bit of fortitude in front of him who is going to press back and push back and kind of go, look, I'm going to try to assert myself. I'm not just going to fold at the first sign of you landing a punch, because he needs to see different fighters, different styles, and get some rounds, because he's in desperate need of it. So sure, it might be a win for Nelson Hyson against the stiff and Patrick Korte, but the thing is, Korte just not very good. So 23-0, calling out, and has his heart set on a fight with Moses Itauma. Whether it comes off or not, another story. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.